Hey, SVC fans, Shane Combs back here on SVC Sports Talk Plus. I want to always remind you to check out svcsportstalk.com. John Bruce doing an outstanding job with fall sports up and going now. Here tonight, talk a little SVC volleyball with you. Always one of my favorite sports to cover. Always has been throughout the last 10 to 15 years on the website, now the YouTube channel, and all the other things that I do with Great Seal Sports and that writing, and as well as the SVC network and calling games again in the upcoming season. You know, as I go to the preview, I always enjoy a couple different things. One, I enjoy conversation with volleyball fans around the area and kind of like to get their take and see what they're thinking. And then you know, a lot of times the rotations are all over the place, but I do like to see individual talent and how kids grow from year to year. And you know, a lot of the conversation this year seems to be centered around Zane Trace, and I think that's fair. I mean, when you know these previews are done on paper, and when you look at paper, you always look at what did they do last year, what do they have returning, and Zane Trace certainly has quite a bit returning off of a team that's been pretty successful over the last couple of years, led by the outstanding play at Lexi Scott. I think she's Player of the Year good. I think she's one of the few hitters this year that can just completely take a match over. And you know, individually really impact the match in a lot of different ways. You know, as she returns there with McCall and May and company and so forth. That's a roster that Coach Davis has that is certainly capable of doing what some people predict them to do. Now, there are some question marks, as always. There's things about consistency and so forth. You know, I watched them play at a really high level last year. Also watched them get beat at Paint Valley on the road. You know, so there's a really there's some ceiling and some floor there and potential that, you know, I'm sure they're looking to kind of prove everybody right in this case in terms of kind of picking them at the top. So I certainly think that's a fair prediction that I'm hearing. Now at the preview, the play of the Adena Warriors really caught some people's attention, and rightfully so. You know, this is a program, you've heard me say before, that volleyball is a sport where, you know, your mistake streak lead directly to points on your opponent. And I feel like a lot of times with volleyball, far more matches are lost than they are won. You know, a lot of times what Adena's so good at is they're so efficient. They just play really clean volleyball longer than you, and they just, even in years where they don't have a lot of put-away hitters and so forth, they just defend to the point where they keep the ball off the floor, and they just simply play cleaner than you. This year's Teemo, wow, when you look out there, they have some length at the net. I think they're going to really combine some of their better offense that they've had in some years as they get more and more experience. They're really good young setter that's going to spread the ball around. You know, Burns at the net there, obviously Fogelsong at the net. Those are names we know. I think they're opportunities are going to go way up as Adena was hit by some graduation in the back row. And McQuinnip and Balsert, there's two more names that we know pretty well. They get some nice addition on the move in and so forth. So Adena certainly, as always, right there at the top as well. The other team that caught a lot of people's attention at the preview in the head-to-head matchup with Zane Trace was the play of Unioto. Unioto is probably a team that could possibly take the biggest step forward from last year. They went through some growing pains last year, but a lot of times what happens when you do that, you think of Stewart and Cutright, they're a year older. You get some move-in help at setter. It stabilizes the setter position enough to where you keep Coleman now at libero, and Coleman teams up with Speck and Miller, and all of a sudden Unioto is going to be one of the better passing teams in the league. So a lot to like there. Certainly some question marks, but again, their length and athleticism certainly going to match up really well in the league. As I go down through, I kind of guess I'll take the rest of them in alphabetical order. Huntington obviously hit hard by graduation. You know, Henshaw returns and some names. Carroll, McCloskey is a nice young player. Tackett did set for them last year a little bit. You know, so there's some names there that you'll know. Again, Huntington's got a long tradition of being pretty competitive in volleyball, and so I think some of that will play a big factor as we get into the year. Continuing down there, Paint Valley's a team, I mentioned them earlier. We saw their capability, you know, last year in the head-to-head win with Zane Trace. We watched their Division IV success in the tournament here over the last 3-4 years, and in a league that several teams did get hit hard by graduation. Paint Valley lost some really good seniors, but I will say this: Paint Valley is one of the older teams in the league. You know, extremely experience at setter. Potts has been, what, our third year. McFadden's a 4-year starter, really, really talented all-around player. And they have a list of almost, what, 6 seniors, I think, if I count right, that will certainly play quite a bit for Coach Posey there. So I think that's a team that's intriguing. You go down the line there. Piketon, another pretty old team. I thought they really, the second half of the year, started to do some things in basketball that caught my attention. Lamerson's obviously a terrific player. If they pass and set the ball cleanly enough with her across her 3 rotations, she's certainly one of those hitters that can really start to take over stretches of sets and help Piketon be extremely competitive. And then Southeastern, I think the Logkey girls are outstanding. I think she's really, really ready for a breakout year, all-league talent. Corcoran's a 3-year starter now, playing all the way around. And they have some size. It sounded to me at the preview like they'll get a little bit healthier. Now, they were hit with some injuries that will impact the entire year, but I think they'll get a little bit healthy in some key spots. They're going to have some really good size at the net as you move forward. And then as I move down, Westfall's a team that was hammered by graduation when you think Latham and Mullins, but again, program, a little bit of tradition. I'll need to see them in their regular rotations to see what they're about. But throughout the summer, some of the opportunities to see them and some people who have seen them a little bit more than me seem to be intrigued by where they could impact the middle of the standings of there as well. So again, when you think volleyball, when you get into the bracket and into the postseason, when you think of Dina, Huntington, Paint Valley Piketon, Southeastern, Unioto, Westfall, Zane Trace, they're all teams in their respective divisions that always seem to be tough outs. Oftentimes it's us knocking each other out. So volleyball is one of those sports where I wouldn't overreact to your team's regular season, because oftentimes our league seems to set the standard in Southeast Ohio quite a bit come tournament time. So I'm anxious to get going. I think once we see some of these teams in their real rotations, get an idea of some of the young talent that's going to really, really impact this league, I think we can get a better feel for it. So check out John Bruce's SVC Sports Talk every night. It's that time of year now where the fall sports are off and running. Make sure you subscribe here to the YouTube channel SVC Sports Zone. On SVC Sports Talk Plus, I'll have player interviews. I'll kind of throw out my 2 cents here throughout the year and honor our kids the best way possible. Thanks, everyone.